I would love to start by digging a little bit into the big Grammy-winning Brat album.
Yeah, of course.
Brat! Charli XCX!
This is the original Sympathy is the Knife session. I could safely say I don't think she made any compromises or concessions, whether that's thinking commercially. She was laser focused on her fan base. This is the original hook.
That's your demo, or? So on the Zayn Malik album, you did 7 songs. Do you want to maybe show us some behind the scenes of that album as well?
Yeah, let me see what I have.
All right, welcome to another episode of Songs You Know, and we have an amazing guest today. I'm so excited. Someone who has done a lot of songs on the incredible multiple Grammy-winning Charli XCX album, Brat. Jon Shave.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's so amazing. We came all the way out to Kingston.
Yeah.
to see you.
Yeah, thanks for coming all that way.
Thank you for having us.
It's far for everyone.
It's such an honor.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome.
For people who don't know who Jon Shave is, I'm going to quickly go through the accomplishments. Of course, the Brat album from Charli XCX, several songs. Then Fancy. I'm so fancy. I love that song.
Oh, thanks.
With Iggy Azalea and Charli XCX.
Yeah.
The first big Zayn Malik album, you did 7 songs.
Yeah.
That is so remarkable. And then Jessie J, during the time when I worked with her, you worked with her too. And I thought you did the cooler song than I did.
Oh, well, I thought your song was very cool.
You did Do It Like a Dude.
Yeah.
What a crazy song.
Yeah.
And at the time, you wrote quite a bit of songs with Jessie, right?
Yes. Yeah, we spent a lot of time with Jessie. Really just trying to solve that question of, you've got someone who can sing anything. So what should she be singing?
All you have to do is pull the brakes because there's so much energy and so much power.
Yeah.
And then a song, Friday, Nightcrawlers.
Yes, yep.
And then there's like 500 more songs that I'm not going to list now because that's already so incredible. I would love to start by digging a little bit into the big Grammy-winning Brat album.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, do you want to show us a little bit about the nitty-gritty, the inside, the secret bits of the session?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so we started in this room and it was...
How did it start? Like, did she say, I want to make a new record? And you've worked with her before. You had one of her biggest hits with Fancy, right? And after Fancy, at what point did Charli say, I want to start the Brat album?
So we'd always kept in touch and we'd always done bits of writing together. And over the years, she's been very sort of graciously brought me on board with various things that she's done at various times. And she sent me a message and it was, it must have been around early 2023, saying I'm making a new record and would you like to be involved? And of course, that kind of message is like, doesn't require any thought or consideration.
Like, oh my God,
it's like clear the diary, So we got some time booked in and she came over here and she brought the amazing Finn Keane with her, who's an amazing writer producer as well. And we just we'd all prepared little bits and pieces and Charli had kind of done so much thinking around the whole Brat concept. She already kind of had that really, the framework of it really worked out before we even stepped in the room.
Wow. And for people who only know Charli from this album, like Charli has been around for, 15 years or did it start with I Crashed My Car into a Bridge or what was her first big one?
Well, that was, so she featured on that record and that was an Icona Pop record.
Yes.
But then Fancy happened, but then Boom Clap happened basically at the same time. So she had two, she was on the US #1 and also had a top 10 with Boom Clap at the same time. So it was a kind of a crazy period in 2014. So that was
2014. So she's been around 11 years.
Yeah.
Like around longer, but
on
the map for 11 years.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So she texted you. She wanted to work with you.
Yeah. And, she'd already put in so much thought into what the album was going to be. So that then provided so much kind of food for discussion in the sessions. And we had lots of long, interesting, fun, fascinating chats around the whole concept of Brat and what it means for her and what is Brat and what is not Brat. And and that then informed the songs that we went on to work on. And
so full on a conceptual album.
Yeah, absolutely.
With a real blueprint of, I want this to be like that, and I chose you to get me there.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience because having obviously had that time of working with Charli in the past, she's such an amazing freestyler melodically. So, you know, in the past, it may be more a case of her vibing with certain beats or certain pieces of music and then being led by the melody, and then we'd work out a lyric afterwards. But this time, she'd actually written in longhand all conceptually what she wanted to talk about.
Wow.
So it was kind of, as a collaborator, that's an amazing gift to walk into a room with someone who's done that much thought and preparation.
Yeah.
It meant the whole experience was just completely different to anything I've ever been part of, really.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and then to have that then sort of received the way it's intended and more by the world, you know, is the biggest sort of validation of what you've done, you know.
When you were making this record, did you feel it was going to be like a left off center weird something, or did you feel this is going to be the biggest record ever?
No, I mean, I honestly think our sort of horizons were focused on the fan base and not thinking beyond that at all. And actually that informed her sort of will not to compromise. So there was, I feel like I could safely say, I don't think she made any compromises or concessions for any kind of outside thoughts, whether that's thinking commercially or thinking, you know, I think she was laser focused on her fan base.
That's an artist's dream, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's probably ultimately what resonated beyond the fan base, is that it's such a kind of bold, uncompromising piece of work.
Do you want to show us maybe some hidden secrets and gems of what's inside these Logic sessions?
Sure. The first thing I think it was the first thing we worked on. I can't remember the exact order, but we started on a song that I'd sort of come up with just the basic chords that morning, and I don't. It felt special to me, but you never know how things are going to land, you know, when you kind of present an idea to an artist. And but it was thankfully something that Charli sort of gravitated towards, and pretty quickly had decided that she wanted to make it her song for Sophie, who she had. Obviously, she was really close to Sophie. She'd introduced me to Sophie over the years, and we'd sort of collaborated on bits and pieces.
Is Sophie her partner?
No, Sophie is the most amazing visionary producer who was sort of part of the PC music movement, who sadly died in 2019, I think.
Can you explain PC music movement?
Yeah, so the PC music movement is something that it was sort of born out of London. It was a collection of artists who basically created the most boundary pushing electronic music, and a member of that collective. So there's A.G. Cook, who's sort of a big part of that, who is basically Charli's creative director and executive produced the whole Brat album. And so they're working collaboratively, closely on everything. But there was another member of the collective called Sophie, who was the most sort of mind-blowingly talented visionary producer. And Charli made a record called Vroom Vroom with Sophie. That was a huge kind of it was basically the for me was the first artistic statement that Charli made, where it was like putting a sort of a tent pole in the sand of saying, like, I stand for something here. And it was just a really, really exciting piece of music, but then also a really exciting collaboration that kind of birthed lots of exciting pieces of music. And I'd kind of been introduced to Sophie by Charli, and we'd spent bits of time in the studio. But when Sophie sadly passed away, I'd always felt like there was so many people that were closer to Sophie than I was. So I struggled to find a way to kind of mark her passing in a way that felt like I had being able to say what I wanted to say. So when this song, long way round of saying,
right.
When this first song we worked on was taking shape, Charli decided she wanted to make it about Sophie, which felt like a real honour to then be sort of along with that journey, because Sophie was such a big figure for Charli, that to sort of be collaborating on that song felt like a really special and really what better way to honour someone than to make a song for them, you know.
Let's take a look.
Yeah.
When you leave a little bit harder every time, and I know I can't get it on my mind. When I go out with you in mind, I can get a little bit crazy on my phone. When I go a little bit crazy back to time, and I know I can mind, I can mind, I can mind. Hold on.
So that was the sort of very first
jam track where she was still didn't have the lyric fleshed out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's interesting listening to that back now, because it's basically the exact melody of how the song ended up.
And this was like a
turning out.
one-take jam on it, basically.
Yeah. So then I feel like the bit we were just going into, we didn't end up picking, but
Hold on, where'd you go? Hold on, no, I know when you're done, I know for you get it strong, but I can't make it by myself.
yeah. So you can kind of hear it sort of, she's sort of working it out as she goes.
Always on my mind,
There's a lyric.
and I can't get it go by your side. When you leave a little bit harder every time, and I know I can't get it on my mind. When I go out with you in mind, I can get a little bit crazy on my phone. When I go a little bit crazy back to time, and I know I can mind, I can mind, I can mind.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
And you had the music going into the session. You prepared that before?
yeah. It's a very simple thing. It's probably 2 or 3 elements.
But it's nice. It has emotion. So that must have triggered her to put this on there.
Right. And then so we must have fleshed out the melody and sort of arranged it.
Yeah.
And then it was a case of then sort of working out lyrically what was going to happen. But I think, you know, the whole ethos of Brat was such a sort of personal, confessional, like stream of consciousness. So the way Charli has kind of shaped the lyrics is it does feel very much like a text message. And that was a very sort of deliberate feel that she wanted to achieve across all the
And
tracks.
is it lyrics where you then pretty much leave the room and let her do the lyrics, or do you debate the words and come up with ideas together? How do you do lyrics?
Well, with this, she absolutely, because it's her sort of personal message and story, she absolutely would have led on it completely. But she is such a collaborative writer that she will always be kind of, you know, seeking your thoughts, or can this be better, or is, you know, have I said this the best possible way? And so it's this kind of process of then steering and shaping and just kind of like working out the nuances of exactly how you want it to land.
Nice.
But she's such a brilliant writer that it's you know, and something as personal as this, it kind of needs to feel like it's come from her as well. So
then track wise, what did you add after this?
So then it existed. So then I think what we did is we really focused on making sure just the track, as simple as it was, with the vocal, really kind of packed everything we wanted it to make you feel, you know. So this was the outcome of that.
Every day, every night, your star burns so bright. What did I push you away? I was scared sometimes. You had a power like a lightning strike. When I'm on stage, sometimes I lie. Say that I love singing these songs you left behind. And I know your eyes say it's okay to cry. So I know I can cry, so I cry.
And then we did quite a lot of, I remember at the end here, there was quite...
And you're at bar 800. How did that happen?
Yeah, so that's because, so basically when you're going into a session like that, what I do is I will line up loads of ideas.
Oh.
Because you need to be really quick, go.
Did you go through all of these ideas until you landed on this one?
Yeah.
She's like, no, next, no.
Yeah,
next,
or
next.
you know, she'll try anything. She's such a brilliant writer. She's really, really down to try. But then, you know, with that one, it was just so obviously really special. I think we all three of us were just kind of like, oh my God, what just happened kind of thing. So this would have been all these ideas we would have tried. So on this one in particular, I remember we did quite a lot of sort of making sure we had all these doubles.
Always on my mind. You're stubborn so bright. What did I push you away? I was scared sometimes.
So we did a lot of work on the vocal, and then we came out with something that it felt kind of emotionally complete in terms of, but there was this it really felt like the missing piece of that song was AG's input, because AG and Sophie was so close, and that sort of AG, Sophie and Charli trio was this kind of really big important thing. So then and AG had kind of developed the whole sonic landscape of the album, and I got time later down the line to sort of work with him as well in the room back in LA, but it was really fascinating because he'd sort of developed the set of rules and limitations in terms of what the sonics are all going to be across the record, which is why
the rules and limitations.
Yeah, effectively, because you know we're only using drums from this kind of sound source and this kind of era, and we're only using this kind of synth, and we're not going to use this kind of synthesis, and these really specific things, but that give the record its texture
and integrity.
So, exactly. So he then did a production pass where he kind of did a lot of the sort of amazing dynamic kind of swirling synths and all kinds of amazing programming stuff.
So you handed it over, your baby.
But yeah, absolutely, but very happily and very trustingly, and that was then the version. Then that next pass was it, basically.
Is there anything else you want to share from this album?
Yeah. So this is the original "Sympathy Is a Knife" session. So this is where we sketched out that song, and this was sort of so I'd sort of brought in the music that became So I, and then Finn had brought in this music that became Sympathy Is a Knife. So this was the original music that we wrote to. So yeah, that was kind of the start of it, and then this would have been.
Even wanna go out, lay in the picture night, picture fall right down, and you're moaning me, and then it's a new music calling me good. I couldn't even be it if I tried. I'm opposite on the other side, so lock the door on me and I'm alone. Wanna know why all that sympathy is just a knife. Why I get fucking angry and I cry. So lock the door on me and lose control. Wanna know
So yeah, that's just an early draft, really.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, it just had a real energy to it, and there was just something again about it that felt really special,
Revolutionary too.
Yeah. And we sort of had long conversations about, like, it was a very specific feeling that Charli was looking to kind of sum up, which you know, the Sympathy Is a Knife thing is it's a sort of one of the more vulnerable sides of the Brat persona, but it's kind of like, I feel worse if people show kindness to me, kind of thing. And so that it was quite a sort of, it's very relatable, but it's a very sort of nuanced set of emotions. So it took a minute for the sort of all the lyrics to come together, and then so that we didn't nail that all in the first day she then took it away and thought about it for a good couple of months before we got back in.
Oh, wow.
And then recut the vocals. We'd done some more work on the track by then, and then we kind of had a version then that feels really close to what it ended up being.
So yes, Fancy. Do you have the original track of Fancy? I'd love to.
Yeah, well, let me
that one.
let me see. So this isn't the session, but I'll just show you just in case, because I don't know if this is basically we had this song, but
yeah.
Champagne spilling, you should taste that.
This is the original hook.
That's your demo, or?
With Iggy.
Okay.
I can leave it right there for you. I can leave it right there for you. Tell me how you want it. I can leave it right there for you. Gotta know that I'm prepared for you. Tell me how you want it. I can leave it right there for you. Baby, I do this. I thought that you knew this.
So yeah, we kind of had that as a song that was going on the album.
Yeah.
And we were just pretty much had finished the album, and we were like, what can we do to any of these songs to just kind of, is there anything we can elevate? Can we just change things up a bit? You know, how exciting can we make this? You know? And so, and I just happened to have in my calendar, Charli was coming in, and this song.
So you were working with Iggy.
Yeah.
At the time, and then you called Charli into the session.
Yes,
oh,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before the session with Charli, I kind of, that song, it just had a crazy energy to it anyway. But it just felt like, well, how would it? You know, we'd just been spending a lot of time in LA with Iggy, and I'd been hearing that Icon of Pop, I Love It song all over the radio, and that sort of really bratty, Gwen Stefani-ish punk vocal that Charlie's so much a big part of was just everywhere. And I remember just feeling like, how would that sound on this, you know? So muted what had been the chorus.
Okay.
And
so Charli never heard the original chorus?
No. But I feel my memory of it is in short order, within minutes of hearing it, the words out of her mouth were, I'm so fancy, and then we were away.
It's like exuding confidence.
Yeah.
Which is what we all want. We want to be confident.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And then we just had a lot of fun with the lyrics, and just kind of like, just, you know, how ridiculous can we be? You know, is kind of the thing. And yeah, we connected really quickly on that. And you know, in an hour or so, we had the finished record.
Wow. Yeah. And what a smash. So from there to it becoming a hit, what happened in between?
A saga. So it sat around for quite a while. I think it was a kind of typical major label situation where no one quite knows what to do, and what's, you know, everyone's sort of almost afraid to make a decision.
What do you do then? Do you do panic emails to everyone, or?
I think management people would have been doing that, I think. Yeah. But I think on our side, I mean, you know, we would just, often I will kind of just take a sit back and just see how things
You just
pan
let
out.
go.
You kind of have to
sometimes.
Trust
the stars and see that people will eventually discover it.
I do. I'm a big believer in that. Yeah.
But do you sometimes feel like they're overseeing something and you have to kick butt to?
Sometimes. Yeah.
What do you do then?
Well, you have to get involved, don't you? And you have to kind of make your
they see
thoughts
your
known. Yeah. No, but I mean, so I think the thing was, we'd sort of been in a bit of limbo, and I think what actually ended up happening, which was actually it seemed like a bad thing at the time, but actually I think turned out to be a really good thing, was that original demo with the rap chorus leaked.
Oh.
And it actually started getting traction in clubs and certain radio stations, and some of the rap radio stations started playing it.
Yeah.
And that forced the issue. And but even at that point, obviously no one knew we had a version with Charli, you know, so then we had to kind of be like, and we've got this version here, by the way,
Yeah.
And then
were people getting used to this hook and it's like
exactly
first maybe rejecting the new hook?
Well, it could have been a thing, that happened. But luckily, Iggy loved the new version, and that then really inspired her.
I mean, Charli's outrageous with her lyrics in such a great way, in such a I want to be like her way.
Yeah.
I think she topped that hook.
Yeah, right.
And if you go back to the beginning of this track, how did you come up with the bass line?
So we were working with one of the most talented producers I've ever worked with, and it was a young guy, really young at the time, called Curtis McKenzie. And we were kind of we were often in LA for like long periods of time, and then coming back and sort of talking to him about all the different influences and things that we needed to bring into the record and
into the Iggy record.
Yeah. And so that bass line came from him, and
Wow.
it was an amazing, I remember the day that kind of landed.
At the time, it felt like, wow, this is the future. We all need to jump on this. In a way, it felt like retro. I think it's leaning onto something that happened a long time ago, which, do you know what I mean?
It reminded me of like Bay Area hip hop from like late 80s or like mid 80s.
And it was time to bring it back, and this song brought it back.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, it's such a weird combination of elements, this record, that I think now it's sort of part of the fabric of music, so you forget how weird those elements were to have that sort of Bay Area influence bass line, and then with like hard rap drums, and then a punky sort of like hook, and then a rap, rap verses. So, yeah.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate it. I'm excited to announce that we are launching a Patreon. This will be a place where you can find out about our upcoming guests, where you can get exclusive access to BTS footage, like for instance a walk through Greg Wells' studio. You can even submit your own questions that we're going to ask in the podcast. That's going to be so much fun. By joining this community, you can help tell the stories behind some of the biggest songs in music history. Thank you for your support. It really does mean everything, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. Hope to see you there. So can we talk about Black Mirror?
Yeah, of course. So that was one of the most fun projects I've literally ever worked on.
Yeah, tell us about it.
So it was, I just got an email out of the blue, subject Black Mirror, and I was like, okay, I'm in already. And it was one of those where they say, we've got this really tight deadline project that you might be interested in. You need to sign an NDA, and immediately, of course, as soon as there's an NDA involved, it's like, I'm also in, because it's going to be...
Because I don't know what I'm going to do now, but I like it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so went through that process, and then got on the phone with the music supervisor and then the director and producer of the episode, and they... In a week's time, they were flying to Cape Town, and they were filming this episode with Miley Cyrus in this sort of dystopian Black Mirror world where she's a pop star who kind of gets turned into like a sort of AI robot thing. And Charlie Brooker, who writes all of Black Mirror, had come up with the idea of repurposing these two 9 Inch Nails songs into these, imagine if they were recorded by the sort of big pop artist of the time, so what was really fun, it sort of felt quite anarchic, was like reproducing these kind of industrial rock records as this like really fun, fluffy pop thing.
Nice.
And so I had a week to make the demos, which was a great process because the director and the producer were really, really helpful and specific with all the feedback, and got them to a point where they were really happy with them. And then I had to fly to Cape Town and then record it with Miley. We did both songs in one day, and then I delivered the finished mixes the next day, and that was it. And then they filmed the episode.
Did you do some videos with Miley?
I had a photo and stuff. I wish I'd been more. I was so like not good at social media then, so I wish I had, but but she's amazing. She's like such an incredible voice and such a great artist.
Great. So I also still want to one more time know a little more about Friday.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us about Friday, and could you sing the chorus for me?
Yeah, it's one I probably can sing because it's literally it's Friday, then it's Saturday, Sunday. It's
keep going.
No, that's it. There is no more.
But then there's a whole group singing it, right?
Okay, well, you know.
Were you drunk when you wrote that?
No. I'll tell you how it came about, though.
Yeah.
So it was sort of, I think it was very lockdown vibes.
Yeah.
I think maybe we were just coming out of it. But,
was it a Friday?
It wasn't, but there was, it may have been, actually. It may have been. I don't know. I can't remember that detail. But basically, that there was a meme going around of, I'm sure you've seen it, but this guy Mufasa who's in his friend's car, and then he start playing the record, and then he starts dancing alongside the side of the car, and it was kind of suddenly like Jay-Z had done his own version, and it was kind of like really capturing people's imagination. And someone said to me, you should make a record of the meme.
Oh.
and then I was like, it, you know, in terms of the elements, like I was a massive Nightcrawlers fan anyway from the 90s and used to buy the singles. So it was, you know, it was sampling that to start with, which was a great start. And then the hook already existed through what Mufasa had done on the meme. So then it was like, let's write some verses and let's just try and structure it into a sort of dance pop record, which we did. And we originally made it for Rita Ora, was the kind of thinking behind it. And then we got it to a point where it's kind of finished and it felt really exciting. And she did record it and she really liked it. But I think at that point, there was other plans of like releases she was going to do. So it was going to get held up for ages. And it was one of those that felt quite urgent, like it just needed to go.
Yeah.
And I played it to Ministry of Sound and they absolutely loved it and sent it to Riton, who jumped on it and kind of worked on the production. And and then they put it out and made a fun video. And it sort of captured that little zeitgeist of the time of like everyone hadn't been able to go out and party and celebrate, and so it kind of tapped into that built up kind of like desire to do that. It's actually, it just hit 1 billion streams on Spotify last summer.
Amazing.
So it's one of those, it's kind of, I realized if you have a song title that's a day of the week, then you see the stats every Friday. It's like that.
Friday.
Right. She was on to something. Yeah.
Maybe let's talk about Zayn Malik.
Yeah.
So on the Zayn Malik album, you did 7 songs, which is outrageous. Do you want to maybe show us some behind the scenes of that album as well?
Yeah. Again, let me see what I have.
Caught between a dream and a movie scene. In a way, you know what I mean. And when the dark turns to mist, I just can't resist it.
This was kind of all a freestyle that we had to really kind of piece it together and almost sort of represent it back. And then right at the end of that process, I think it was someone on the management said, oh, by the way, we just got Questlove to put drums on it. And it was like, oh, wow. Nice. Amazing. So then having to sort of then mix them in on a record that was already kind of felt done, you know, was an interesting moment, but we got it done. It was something that he was in the mood to do that day, and I think he really responded to the sort of the classic kind of almost, you know, John Lennon-y piano vibe. And it just came about really, really sort of classic songwriting. But I think sometimes in these situations, you're kind of you're dealing with people who their attention span is really challenged because they've got so much they're dealing with at any one time. And that was definitely I remember that being the vibe at the time of like, you'd be lucky to get the time you got in the studio. So,
or an uninterrupted 10 minutes of his attention.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why there's a sort of slight patchwork element to the earlier, and it wasn't even as if, it wasn't that we were particularly writing in gaps. We were taking the impulse of what he would have put down and then just like ironing it out and then playing it back and then seeing if he liked it. And then he would then make it his own again. So it's kind of this building process, you know.
That's great.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Now I want to know about you. Where do we start? When did you first fall in love with music?
So I came from a musical family, but my family were mainly kind of classical musicians. And so I started on the violin and the piano. And
can you still play the violin?
I technically can still play the violin.
It's such a crazy instrument.
Yeah. I haven't played.
I understand the bass or the cello because you have a little room for your fingers, but the violin, it's, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's such nuances.
Well, my thing on the violin was I was good at getting a nice tone, but I wasn't so good at the sort of really fast fiddly stuff. So I actually transitioned to the viola, which is a lot more where you can really just focus on making a nice tone, and that suited me better. But I'd say in terms of songwriting and pop music, I kind of discovered pop music probably when I was about 7, 8, and became immediately obsessed and consumed by it, really.
Were your parents disappointed that you veered away from classical music?
They were always really supportive, you know, so they always just encouraged me, really. I mean, they used to kind of get annoyed that I would never do any practice on the piano or the violin. And in the end, I remember my mum saying, do you think we should just give up the piano lessons? Because you literally never practice. But then what I would do is, after I'd given up, I would then play the piano more because I would sit on my Walkman and work out the chords of songs like Stevie Wonder and stuff like that. And then that quickly led to then, once you've worked out a few chords, you realise you can change the order and start writing your own songs. And that's kind of what got me into songwriting.
And when did you start collaborating?
So I probably wrote songs all throughout my teens and didn't collaborate at all.
Did you
know,
sing on them yourself?
No, I would always be trying to convince like either my sisters or people at school or like...
Your sisters could sing?
Enough.
Like Finnegan and Billie Eilish. Phineas and Billie Eilish.
Yeah, it wasn't... I wouldn't compare ourselves to those. You know, we weren't at that level, but...
Similar situation though.
Yeah. And I was sort of obsessed with the idea of being a producer, you know. I kind of knew through my bits on the violin that I wasn't destined to be a performer. It wasn't really what I wanted to do, but I loved the idea of making music and staying behind the scenes and all the technical stuff as well I've always been into. So I first started collaborating in my early 20s. I moved to London and I had no contacts in the music business really at all. But I ended up getting...
From where did you move to London?
So I'd been at university in Liverpool.
Okay.
I'd grown up in Suffolk before that. But yeah, so I moved to London. I got a job actually in a music law firm, which at the time I was kind of like, oh, this is going to be so boring. I'll probably last 6 months and then see. But really quickly suddenly realized what an amazing place to be. If I had a good demo, imagine all these people through the door every day who I could be. And so I really then, that focused me on kind of making the best demo I could at the time, which took me about 18 months.
Yeah.
But then luckily was, you know, able to kind of share it with people that then were really able to help me out. And I ended up going to work for a producer, Brian Higgins, who at the time was just hitting this amazing wave of creativity and success with, he made all the Girls Aloud records and a lot of kind of legendary UK pop music came out of his studio, and I was kind of in his team for like 4 years. And that was my in at the deep end, collaborate. You know, I'd never recorded a guitar before even, you know, but I kind of had to really learn on the job.
What is a song that that was very meaningful to you when you were very young? A song that made you cry, a song that made you laugh, a song that gave you an intense emotion?
I mean, the first pop album I really got into was probably True Blue by Madonna. And, you know, it would be the situation where I'd spent my pocket money on the cassette, you know, so
On the
and it was-
cassette.
on the cassette, and so that's all I would listen to, you know, it's all I had to listen to. But you would end up listening to every single song, you know, time and time again. But I remember there was a song on there called "Live to Tell" that was like this huge. It's actually just gone viral again on TikTok, which is like crazy to me because it's you know, it's from like 1986 or something. But it's this amazing kind of big ballad, very dramatic. It was she kind of chose it as the first single from that album, which I've seen now since everyone at the label was up in arms because it was, you know, such a risky move. But it's such an amazing, beautiful song. So that's definitely one.
What's one of your proudest moments of your career?
I feel like I'm obviously proud of like the moments of success and, you know, and I've kind of feel like I've been doing it long enough now where I know that I know to enjoy the moments of success because you know that they don't last forever and you might not be in the same position in 6 months. So, but obviously, those moments of the success throughout the years I've felt very proud at various times. But I think honestly, like the Brat album was such a big thing for me personally because I'd kind of working on that album. It was the first session I did working on my own as a writer and producer, and I'd kind of worked in teams for like my whole career.
Also something I wanted to touch on. Like you have founded several producer groups, right?
Yeah.
Or how would you call it?
Production teams. Yeah.
Production teams.
Yeah.
And it would usually be like 2 or 3 people who work well together, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then you would have a run together, and within that team, you would probably prepare ideas before the artist comes in, and then make sure it flows well in the session, so you never get stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very much how it would work. I mean, I think, for the first 20 years of my career, I was in teams the whole time, and you know, they were really valuable to me in that, you know, for the first 4 years, I worked for a producer who, you know, I went into that situation knowing nothing, you know.
So you were part of his team at first?
I was part of his team, which was an amazing experience, an amazing learning experience.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're always, if working for a producer like that, you're always executing someone else's vision, you know.
Yes.
And I kind of had ideas of my own that I wanted to kind of be able to.
And you might feel sometimes like you're doing the whole session, and then why do you share it and give 2/3 away?
Yeah, that can happen for sure.
Now you can really look at both scenarios and say, what's the plus? Let's look at the last 20, 30 sessions that you did by yourself with an artist versus you were in a team of 3 people with the artist. Like, how do you compare these two?
I mean, I loved working in a team. Really, really suited me at that time in my career because I feel like I've built in confidence and skills year by year by year, and I think I wouldn't have been able to do what I can do now if I hadn't sort of been through those experiences.
Yeah.
Having said that, going alone and sort of breaking off on my own has almost felt like starting a whole new career, and I've felt really inspired and energized, and I almost feel like I'm a new writer. And it's been amazing at this point in my career to kind of experience that. So yeah, I'm just trying to sort of.
It was kind of a clean break for you, right? You had the team, then you had another team, and then you went alone.
Yeah.
And without a team from then on.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, it was the reverse. I had my first hits just 50-50s, and then eventually I discovered, oh my God, as a team, it could be easier.
Yeah.
There's not these days when you get stuck or when the flow doesn't go the way you want to.
Yeah. So I really, really valued that. You know, I felt like the Invisible Men years, which is like 15 fantastic years together, and you know, we're still really good friends, really close now. But it was almost the most amazing way of ever you know, avoiding writer's block ever, because it's
always a party.
Yeah. always. And you can always be sharing ideas, get to a certain point, hit a brick wall, hand it over, get it back later on, add some more. And that really was such an amazing way to work.
But then the artists always end up with at most a quarter, right, in the room.
I guess, yeah. But I mean,
that's the other thing. If you have a hit and there's 11 songs, if there's 11 writers on the song, then you get a fraction versus if it's a 50-50. Or there's some 100%ers like Nasri who did Rude Boy by himself. No, Rude. Why you gotta be so rude? Yeah, we just had an episode with Nasri and it's crazy. Some of these 100%ers, they just alone in the room. There it is.
Yeah. See, I really admire that. I find that the most inspiring thing. I always remember Calvin Harris with We Found Love, and it was like written by and produced by, and how amazing.
Performed by the artist is.
Yeah.
Intimidating.
Yeah.
Who needs us?
Yeah.
So this podcast is also for people who want to be like you, want to like make the music that Charli XCX wants to write to, and Iggy Azalea and all these frequent collaborators that you have. Can you give some tips and pointers and do's and don'ts?
I mean, I think collaboration is just so key to what I do, and I think I never stop learning from collaborating with other producers or writers, and that every single session, if I work with a new producer or something, I always come away with something new that I didn't know.
It's always collaborative for you.
Always.
Yeah, for me too. Never write everything myself. Never.
Yeah.
And that's where you draw a lot of inspiration from too, right? You meet someone for the first time and wow, something happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like, and I didn't always realize this, but I feel like I've come to realize that the best songs and my favorite songs come from the best conversations in the room and the best like connections you have with those people. Yes. So I think if you were just starting out, I would really focus on like, who do I just get that great freeing collaborative feeling of just spending time with them, let alone writing a song. Yeah. And the song is almost the sort of like great byproduct of a great day spent with people you really like spending time with.
And probably also not judge while you're being creative. Like just be a stupid carefree child and dare to suck and make mistakes and laugh about it. And
absolutely,
then suddenly something sticks.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've been with Logic Audio for a long time?
Yes, I've been with Logic. So, I mean, even when I was 12 and I had an Atari ST in my bedroom and it had a program on it called C-Lab Notator, which was the early. I
had that too.
Did you?
Yes. Yeah. The creator and the notator.
Yes, yeah.
And then eventually the Macintosh claimed that they could run Logic and everything was like all over the place for the first year or two.
Yeah. So when I kind of, my first ever job in a studio, I kind of blagged it a bit. I'd kind of said, I know how to use Logic. It's fine, and I really didn't at all. But then when I actually got in there and I realized it was actually Notator with like lots of other stuff bolted onto it, I was suddenly like, okay, I'm okay. So I think I've spent days trying to get up to speed on Ableton and, but I get frustrated if I can't do things really quick. Yeah. And I've kind of got Logic to a point where I'm just kind of like, bang, 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 I'm good, it is a kind of every year I have a New Year's resolution of like, I'm gonna crack Ableton this year, but hasn't happened yet. So
it's like learning to speak a different language.
Right.
You get to the same communication, I guess.
Yeah.
But Ableton, a lot of people use it and feel really inspired by it.
Yeah. I mean, I think those things, it's like the starting out stages, you're more likely to have those happy accidents as well, where you create something you weren't expecting to create just because you don't know how to use it, so. That's
true. Yeah. Any other pointers you can give? Like, how do you record vocals?
I mean, another sort of discovery I've made over the years as well is that it's not even so much about the gear that you may or may not have, but a lot of singers I've worked with, I've realized that you will get, it's not true with everyone, but you'll get some singers such a better performance if they're relaxed and they've got one of these in their hand and they're maybe sitting on the sofa and you do everything you can to make the signal as clean. So maybe hopefully get a pair of headphones on them and, but it's all about capturing a vibe and a moment.
Yeah.
And I find that what has happened in the past is when you get to that moment where it's like, right, it's time to now stand up and perform on the big microphone. I think that's intimidating. And I think not all singers shine necessarily in that moment, and you lose something that was really special about the more relaxed thing. A case that completely is the opposite of that would be someone like Jessie, who
now she's at the mic. Now she needs to perform. 180.
She used to say, we need to bring in an audience because I need to feel nervous in order to record this song, you know. And so it would be, we would do that. We'd bring in lots and lots of strangers to kind of watch her perform, and then she'd always... There's
quite a few artists who actually love the performing aspect so much more than the studio, and they are in the studio so they can perform, so they have something to perform and get back on stage. And I guess with Jessie, then that's... If she sings and there is a lot of people right there, then she feels like she's performing, and then it's very different.
And you're with someone like that, you are capturing a performance, you know.
How often do you go into sessions that you already have like a blueprint or a track or a hook idea, and how often do you just say, I have nothing, I'm just going to feel the vibe?
That already gives me anxiety, the idea of going in with nothing. I mean, I always like to have something, even if it's like the most basic, but I almost think it's sometimes even the motion of saying, well, I've got this to offer. It's an icebreaker. And even if you don't end up using it, even if I don't even end up pressing play on it, I think it helps me feel prepared. And I really hate feeling like
there's
unprepared.
Also the fear though, that if you have that it preempts the good ideas from coming, like prevents the good ideas from coming. Like sometimes you throw something in that you've kind of started as a plan B and you bring that in too early. And then the real magic can't unfold because you've already kind of, okay, now we're doing this.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, I tend to keep my ideas extremely underdeveloped.
That's a good one,
So there's always room, because I feel like that's part of it as well, is like, you don't want to present something to someone with too many decisions having been made on it. And there's something really special about when you build something together and you kind of forge that connection with someone through doing that. So it's just, I think for me, it's more the idea of having the nugget of an idea to present, see what you think, anything here. And you know, then I kind of don't feel underprepared.
And then probably also letting the artist be the boss, and if they are not feeling something, kill it and
absolutely
try something new. And if they don't feel that, kill it, try something new. That takes courage, especially if you worked on it for an hour or two, and then you're looking at the time, I got them for another hour. If we start something now, we probably won't finish it. Very often in sessions, like we killed 5 ideas and then suddenly something pops up last minute, and that is the magical thing that can happen too.
Totally. I mean, quite often what will happen is I'll spend, you know, with the people I'm working with, the majority of a session really like laboring over one particular idea, and we might get it finished, and then like, right, should we just try something else quick? And then that's the one that lands and is the great thing, you know.
So we have this fun segment called Guess That Song, and please guess along with us. Maybe you know the song before he does. Okay, I play a melody and you need to guess it with as few notes as possible.
Okay.
Do you want another note?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Is this one of my songs?
No. It's a very, very big song. I'm super jealous of because it's so genius.
Is it cause the thing I'm thinking of is really old? Is it
very old?
Yeah, so it's I Can't Help Falling in Love.
You got it. You. Yes. Genius. Yeah. What a beautiful song.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I love that. All right. 1 for 1. Let's see. Maybe this one.
One more, please. I don't know. Oh, as time goes by.
No.
Oh no.
The boy is
Oh.
I think it's that, right?
I should have. Yeah, I should have got that.
What a great
That was one of my favourite
Monica
records
and
of all
Brandy.
time. Yeah.
Brandy was my massive celebrity crush.
Oh, yeah. I mean, those first 3 Brandy albums, I was absolutely.
Were you like Team Monica or Team Brandy at the time?
Team Brandy?
Team Brandy, yeah.
Yeah. Love Monica though, obviously.
Yes. Let's see another one.
Don't know. I'm really not very good at this, it turns out.
It starts with a color,
Okay.
and the next word is a force of nature. Next note you will know.
Ah!
Yeah.
Purple Rain. Oh,
Purple
God.
Rain.
I'm so, yeah.
One of the
Terrible.
best songs ever written.
Amazing song.
Yes.
Terrible performance by me,
One of
is
the
what I'm
best
saying.
performers ever
Yeah.
to live.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've
Okay.
captured a lot of ground.
Brilliant.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm so happy that you invited us to be in your beautiful studio.
Oh, thanks for coming. It's been fun.
Yes, so if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And if you want to give us a review, we'd be super happy about a 5-star review, of course. Thank you. And there'll be more. We can say goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.